Hello, good morning, good evening, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. So let's start the session. Mm,
Good
Good
evening,
evening.
ma'am.
good evening,
Good evening,
good
ma'am.
evening, good evening to everyone. Good evening. Okay, let's start the session. Mm, okay, regulation of circulation. I hope you guys have attended the lectures, the uploaded lectures, and you all remember the first 3 weeks, what we have done in first 3 weeks. Because in this lecture we have some or other way relations with these other 3 weeks. I try to
Madam,
explain
uh,
that. Yes.
ma'am, actually, I would like to question what's the basic difference between epinephrine and non-epinephrine?
You want to ask what is the basic difference between epinephrine and norepinephrine?
Yes.
These are both actually secretions from adrenal medulla. Both have different
Hmm.
functions depending upon the situation and when they are secreted. It's not like always they have different functions, sometimes they have same functions also. Like we saw in case when we were studying this sympathetic nervous stimulation of norepinephrine secretion and all. So sometimes they both can act upon same receptors also, but yes, depending upon situations, they have sometimes different functions also that we will be studying further in the series of the lectures that you will be attending. So yes, when we come through that, you'll get to know. If I'll explain it to you now only, then you'll get confused. So we'll see it throughout the lecture series. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So shall I move ahead and we'll start the lecture for today. So yes, regulation of circulation, as we have seen in the previous lectures also, you guys must have attended the video, you have seen the videos, so you may know that this regulation of circulation in the blood flow, when it comes to heart, when it comes to blood vessels, there are sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, which is regulating the circulation in the manner that it is either constricting the vessel or it is dilating the vessel depending upon the situation, depending upon the availability of oxygen or the requirement of that particular organ. In that sense, in that line, we'll further proceed with this. So what it says is the blood flow must be regulated to ensure an adequate blood supply even under changing environment conditions and stress. As we all know, we come across many situations, many kind of environmental conditions in daily life. So there must be some kind of a regulatory system in a body so that these changes won't affect the normal functioning of the body. So this regulation of circulation is actually controlled by many factors, not only one. So experiments have shown that the blood flow to each tissue usually is regulated at the minimal level that will supply the tissue's requirement, no more, no less. That is, when there is some situation that a particular body part requires more blood than the other one, then obviously there is such regulation that that particular organ is supplied with the amount of blood that it requires and the amount of blood from some other body organ which doesn't require that amount of blood necessarily at that moment. Then the blood flow from that organ will be lessened down and the blood will be supplied to that organ which requires it more at that point of time. Okay, so what it implies that with the optimal regulation of cardiac activity and blood pressure, at that level, regulation of circulation will happen. Adequate perfusion of all organ systems according to the requirement of that particular organ. The adequate amount of blood will be supplied to that particular organ, and shunting of blood to active organ system. That means when a particular organ requires more blood, then the requirement of that blood will be fulfilled by the body, by the regulatory system, by cutting down the blood from some other system. Okay, so at the expense of resting organ, as I told you, here it has given an example of GI tract, that is gastrointestinal tract, to keep from overtaxing. If the situation comes that a particular organ requires more blood, then two things can happen. Either the body cut down the blood supply or lessen the blood supplies from that organ which is resting, or it can overpressure the heart that you need to pump more blood, you need to work overtime. In both the situation, body generally chooses to lessen down the blood supply to a particular resting organ than overtaxing the heart. Otherwise, what will happen? The heart will be overburdened, and at some point of time, some problems may occur. Some kind of irregularities may occur. Okay, so body generally chooses the other cutting down the blood supply at resting organ. Okay. So yes, what happens here, they have shown that in active hyperemia condition, what happens when the tissue uses more oxygen, the blood flow increases. Okay, an example of active hyperemia is the increase in blood flow that accompanies muscles contraction. If a muscle is, when the situation comes when the person is exercising, somebody needs to be admitted. Okay. So when the situation arises when a person is exercising and it needs more blood, more oxygen, more nutrients, in that situation this active hyperemia condition happens. So they are also saying the same thing. An example of active hyperemia is the increase in blood flow that accompanies muscle contraction, which is also called as the exercising or functional hyperemia in skeletal muscles. Blood flow increases in that situation because the increased oxygen consumption during the muscle contraction stimulates the production of vasoactive substances that dilate the resistance vessel. Basically what happens is when the muscle is contracting or muscle needs more blood, more oxygen, more nutrients, in that situation muscle stimulates the production of some compounds, some vasoactive compounds, which will dilate the blood vessel so that more and more blood can flow to that particular organ, so that the resistance that the blood is facing while flowing to that particular organ lessens down. And for other example includes the increase in gastrointestinal blood flow during digestion of food. When the blood is being digested in the gastrointestinal tract, then obviously the blood supply should be increased so that more and more nutrients can get absorbed in the blood and then later on to supply to the whole body. So yes, depending upon the situation, this blood flow keeps on changing in different organ systems in our body. So they are also saying the same thing, that the increasing gastrointestinal blood flow during digestion of food, the increase in coronary blood flow when the heart rate is increased, and the increase in cerebral blood flow associated with increased neuronal activity in the brain. So depending upon the situation, depending upon the requirement of that particular organ, the blood flow increases in that particular organ. Okay. Okay, so this is the reactive hyperemia condition when the blood supply to a tissue is blocked for a short while. So what they did is they did a particular an experiment in which they blocked the supply of blood to some particular organ for a short while, like they have mentioned for 30 seconds, for 1 minute, for 2 minutes, for 5 minutes, different time points. And then when the blood supply is unblocked, blood flow through that tissue increases immediately to 4 to 7 times the normal blood supply, so that the requirement of that particular tissue can be met. Okay, so this is called as the reactive hyperemia condition. The increased blood flow will continue for minutes or hours depending upon the requirement of that tissue or depending upon the condition in that tissue for the time period the blood was blocked. Okay, so it totally depends on the requirement, the need of the particular tissue of the organ. Okay, so acute local blood flow regulation कैसे होता है when oxygen availability changes, whenever the availability of the oxygen to tissue decreases, such as what in what conditions they are saying, like a person which is normally staying at a surface area, plain area, and when they go to a high altitude at like very high mountain ranges or some like upper Himachal kind of place or something. So there the oxygen amount is comparatively less in the atmosphere is comparatively less than the situation. So what happens to meet the requirements of the body will adjust accordingly. Okay, so this is called as the acute local blood flow regulation. In pneumonia condition also, या फिर when a person is having some kind of carbon monoxide poisoning, in that situation also this local blood flow regulation happens. The body will try to supply more and more blood to that particular organ which has been carbon monoxide poisoned, or when the person is traveling to high altitude, generally what is seen is the count of RBC in that person's blood gradually increases. It takes time obviously, but yes, it increases so that the oxygen needs of the body can be met. Okay. In cyanide poisoning also, which presents the ability of tissue to use oxygen. So the blood flow through the tissues increases markedly. Okay. So effect of decreasing arterial oxygen saturation of blood flow through an isolated dog leg. This experiment is particularly for that. Yes, who wants to join? Okay. So this was this key acute blood flow regulation happens whenever the requirement of body is increased. Okay, so the local regulation of blood flow कैसे होता है? Auto regulation जिसको हम कहते हैं, auto regulatory mechanisms help to maintain a constant blood flow to certain organs when the blood pressure changes. For example, renal vessels constrict in response to rise in blood vessels so that the blood pressure can be maintained. Autoregulation also functions to adjust the blood flow according to the changes in the metabolic activity of the organ also. Okay, as we have discussed earlier, depending upon the demand of that particular organ, when the heart is pumping more and more blood, when the cardiac output is increasing, in that case, the blood flow in the coronary arteries also increases so that the heart tissue can get a proper supply of oxygen, which it requires to increase the cardiac output. Okay. So yes, depending upon the requirement of that organ, the blood flow of that particular organ increases. And yes, the local metabolic chemical effects, an increase in local concentration of metabolic products such as carbon dioxide, H positive ions, which we call it protons, and ADPs, AMPs, adenosine, and potassium. Increase in any of such metabolic products in blood indicates that that the vasodilation is required. That particular organ is not getting a proper supply of blood, so these actually work as vasodilators. When they are in the interstitium, that means a vasodilatory effect is required, especially in pre-capillary arterioles, so that more and more blood can flow to that particular capillaries and the oxygen requirements of that area can be met. Okay. Okay, so yes, the resulting rise in blood flow not only improves the supply of substrate and O2 but also accelerates the efflux of these metabolic products from the tissue so that it doesn't give a signal again and again to increase the blood flow, because at the end of the day the body needs to maintain this blood pressure and blood supply in all the organs. Okay, it's not like they have to supply constantly to that particular organ only, so they are effluxed also. Okay, so the blood flow to the brain and myocardium is almost entirely subject to local metabolic control. Depending upon the local metabolic control, depending upon the requirement, when these, as I told you, these compounds, these actually chemicals are sensed in interstitium. Depending upon that, the blood supply to brain and this heart is also controlled. Both local metabolites effects and O2 deficiency leads to an up to 5-fold increase in the blood flow. 5-fold of increase in blood flow can occur in these organs depending upon this local metabolic control and the affected region in response to decreased blood flow. This is called as the reactive hyperemia. reactive hyperemia as we have discussed here. If you guys remember, this was the reactive hyperemia. That means when the blood flow to a particular organ is blocked, or we can say decreased to a level to which is very low for that particular organ. But yes, in resting condition, this sometimes happens so that the requirement of other body organs can be met. So this happens in case of brain and heart also. Okay, in organs like skeletal muscle and intestine, the increased auto demand is associated with enhanced organ function, like in exercise and nutrient absorption, as I told you earlier also. When the food is being digested, then the blood flow must be increased in the gastrointestinal tract so that maximum of nutrients can be absorbed in the blood, and then it can be supplied to the whole body. And this demand is met by how? Increasing the both blood flow, arterial dilation, and the number of perfused capillaries, precapillaries, sphincter dilation. You must remember from the previous lectures that there is a sphincters, precapillary sphincter present at the starting of the capillaries, which control the dilation or constriction of the capillaries depending upon the demand of that particular organ. Okay, so these both mechanisms work together to manage these changes. Okay. Okay, in myocardium, what happens is increasing blood flow is the only means for enhancing the oxygen delivery. Either the blood flow can increase or it can decrease depending upon the signal the blood vessels are getting. So in myocardium, increasing blood flow is only means. There can't be any other means for the enhancing oxygen delivery in case of the coronary arteries. So it happens by because opening of additional capillaries to facilitate diffuse O2 exchange is not possible. Here we don't have capillaries for for enhanced sorry, for addition we don't have capillaries here, so obviously no capillary sphincters to control that kind of blood supply. So here the increased blood supply to coronary arteries is the only possible way to meet the enhanced oxygen requirements in the heart muscles. Okay, so there are no closed capillaries in this myocardium setup. So only the increased supply to coronary arteries is the only mean to increase the oxygen supply. Okay, one more thing here is, if you guys remember from the lectures, adenosine also plays an important role in regulation of blood flow to various organs. Who wants to join? Yes. Yes, adenosine also plays an important role in regulation of blood flow to various organs through vessel dilation. So adenosine, how adenosine works? It has a vessel dilation effect. So it dilates the blood vessel and the blood flow will increase. So adenosine आता कहाँ से? Adenosine is a naturally occurring purine nucleoside that forms from the breakdown of ATP. We all know ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So when say adenosine आता है, adenosine triphosphate first breaks down into ADP, then AMP, and when the condition arises, it forms from AMP it forms the adenosine, which is a purine, a nucleotide base. Okay. So what happens is, if there are a large amount of ATP hydrolyzed, and especially if there is an insufficient oxygen available, that is when the condition is hypoxic, then some of the AMP can be further dephosphorylated to adenosines by the cell membrane associated enzyme, which will form this adenosine. This adenosine will then further binds to its receptors. The receptors are generally G protein coupled receptors. Okay, these are G protein coupled receptors. So obviously adenosine itself won't go inside the cell. It will just bind to its receptor on the cell membrane, where the G protein, which is coupled with this receptor, will further create the signaling, act as a secondary messenger, will activate the guanylyl cyclase. This guanylate cyclase will then further take on the processing and will signal the cell that yes, there is a hypoxic condition, oxygen is insufficient, you need to supply more blood and more oxygen to that particular organ. So we have two types of receptors for adenosine here, that is A1 receptors and A2 receptors. A1 receptors कहाँ locate होते हैं? They are present at SA node and AV nodes. Okay. While the while the A2 receptors are present at the vascular smooth muscles. You guys must be knowing that in every blood vessel there are three layers, that is tunica interna, tunica media and tunica externa. Okay, so in tunica media what is there? Smooth muscle layer it is. So these A2 receptors are present on that smooth muscle layers, on the plasma membrane of those smooth muscles, where the adenosine will act as a stimulator. It will provide the stimulatory effect there, and by this stimulatory effect it will cause a relaxation in the blood vessels. It will cause relaxation in the blood vessels, while in case of this SC node and AV node, it will act as an inhibitor, and it will inhibit the SC nodes and AV nodes, providing this effects. So let's say what this is, adenocytes acts by the purinergic. Okay, so it is a purine. So the receptors to which it binds are called as the purinergic receptors. It is of two types, as I already told you, A1 and A2. A2 and A1, and a dromotropic agent is the one which affects the conduction speed in the AV node. So here, as they are showing, it decreases the dromotropy, which means that it will decrease the conduction, it will affect the conduction speed in the AV node. AV node की conduction speed को it will affect, and subsequently the rate of the electrical impulses in the heart. Because AV node क्या करता है? Electrical impulse जो आगे जानी होती है ventricles में, it controls that. So when there is an effect on the AV node conduction speed, so obviously the further signaling will also be affected. So yes, it will act as an inhibitory signal on the SC and AV nodes, while a stimulatory signal on the vascular smooth muscles. Okay. Okay, another agent is the nitric oxide. Nitric oxide हम पहले भी पढ़ चुके हैं. We get this nitric oxide. If you want to take it from outside, it is a vasodilator. We take it as a nitroglycerin. ठीक है. So what happens is it is a vasodilator which is released from the healthy endothelial cells. Why it is released from healthy endothelial cells? Let's see. NO is a lipophilic gas. Lipophilic means lipid loving. So it can cross the plasma membrane barrier very easily. That is released from the endothelial cells in response to a variety of chemical or physical stimuli. Many signals are responsible for the release of nitric oxide from the endothelial cell. Endothelial cells कहाँ present होती है? In the lining of the blood vessel, the tunica interna thing. Nitric oxide synthase in the endothelial cell synthesize NO from arginine. So what is the precursor for NO formation? It is arginine. Arginine is a amino acid. Okay, so NO acts mainly on the local tissues. NO activates soluble enzyme, that is guanylate cyclase. Okay, so it is also a G protein coupled receptor. Wait a moment, someone wants to join. These are some of the points that you must remember always. These are very small points. So yes, as I told you, just a moment. As I told you, yes. So NO acts mainly on the local tissue, and it activates the guanylate cyclase in the vascular smooth muscles. Again, vascular smooth muscles, because it is a vasodilator. Vaso means vessel, the blood vessel here we are talking about, and dilator means it will relax the blood vessel. So it must act on the smooth muscles of the vascular system of the blood vessels, resulting in the conversion of cyclin guanosine triphosphate to cGMP, again a secondary messenger, which causes the blood vessels to relax. Okay, so it will act on its receptor on the smooth muscle cell and will lead to the formation of cGMP, which will help the blood vessels to relax. So the released NO increases the diameter of large upstream blood vessels whenever microvascular blood flow increases downstream. Okay, with such a response, the effectiveness of local blood flow control would be decreased because a significant part of the resistance to blood flow is in the upstream small arteries. Okay, so क्या होगा कि blood flow का जो वो है dilate हो जाएगा तो blood flow will increase eventually. Okay, so NO is released in case of many stimuli are there too. जैसे कि यहाँ इन्होंने बोला है आगे भी आएगा, हम लोग आगे भी देख सकते हैं इसको. सो द एंजाइम इज एक्टिवेटेड बाय चेंजेस इन द इंट्रासेल्युलर कैल्शियम इन रिस्पॉन्स टू चेंजेस इन द shear force. shear force क्या होता है? shear force is the stress applied by the fluid flowing through the tube on the tube wall when a blood is flowing through the blood vessel. So when this blood is flowing through this blood vessel, it is applying certain kind of a force in the walls of the blood vessel. So this shear force which is applied by the flowing blood on the blood vessels or by a receptor mediated process, the things which can activate these receptors for the secretion of NO are acetylcholine, bradykinin, substance P, insulin. These are all can be act as a stimulator for the formation of NO. Okay, nitric oxide. So this released nitric oxide activates soluble, as I told you, guanylate cyclase in the smooth muscle, converting it to converting GTP to cGMP, which will lead to the relaxation of the blood vessels, the dilation of the blood vessels. So again, just a revision, it is a vasodilator released from the healthy endothelial cells. It is the most important endothelial derived relaxing factor. It is a lipophilic gas, as I told you, lipid loving. So that is released in the response of number of stimuli. 4 stimuli हमने पहले पढ़े हैं. That is bradykinin, acetylcholine, substance P, and insulin. Other are agents like thrombin, ADP, serotonin, acetylcholine we have discussed earlier, bradykinin we have discussed earlier. So these are some of the stimuli which can promote the release of nitric oxide and lead to the vasodilation. Okay, mechanical stimuli including shear stress, as I told you. Shear stress also stimulate the release of NO from the endothelial cells, and endothelial cells कहाँ present होती है? We all know in the inner lining of the blood vessels. Okay, so nitric oxide synthase in endothelial cells synthesizes NO from arginine, and arginine is a amino acid. So this is all we have explained earlier. Okay, one more thing is sildenafil is a drug which acts by inhibiting this cGMP. This is a specific phosphodiesterase type 5 sildenafil acts by inhibiting cGMP, and this will inhibit actually what? Vasodilation, because NO is a vasodilator. Yes, sir.
Ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, chronotropy and dromotropic effect in case of nitric oxide.
Yes. So as I told you, this is actually an effect which just let me take it back to that slide. A moment. Yes, so as I told you, this chronotropic agent is the one that affects the conduction speed, and same goes for the chronotropic. It is basically acting on the heart to actually what poses an inhibitory effect, so that the conduction system in the heart can slow down, and this basically what adenosine is doing, it is causing some kind of relaxation, so it is acting as a vasodilator. So this is generally the effect, the inhibitory effect on the heart, so that the conduction speed can be affected, and this effective conduction speed will further lead to the vasodilation, and basically it is just a local effect on heart.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, yes. So yes, next thing what we are going to discuss here is this renin. Before coming to renin, you guys must know that this renin is coming out from what? These are coming out from the juxtaglomerular.
Glomerular apparatus.
Sorry,
Juxtaglomerular apparatus.
juxtaglomerular cells of the kidney, and these juxtaglomerular cells are actually present at the entrance when this afferent blood vessel is entering inside the Bowman's capsule. When this is entering inside the Bowman's capsule, so when this is juxtaglomerular cells are actually present at just that point when this afferent vessels enter inside the Bowman's capsule to make the glomerulus. Okay, so these cells are actually the cells lining this afferent blood vessels, and they have some kind of stretch receptors which will sense the blood pressure by these stretch receptors and will send the signals accordingly. So what they do is these cells secrete this renin from they secrete this renin after sensing the blood pressure in the afferent blood vessels. Okay, so when this renin is secreted, when it comes into the blood, it will do what? Here you can understand it better. When this renin enters the blood, it will convert this angiotensinogen, a compound which is present in the blood already, which is secreted by which organ?
Liver.
Yes, liver. So what will happen is this angiotensinogen which is secreted by liver is already present in the blood. This renin will convert this angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1. Okay. When this angiotensinogen is converted to angiotensin 1, it is still in the blood, it is flowing in the blood. So when this blood reaches to lungs, we have another thing there is angiotensinogen converting enzyme. Okay. So when this blood reaches to the lungs, this angiotensinogen converting enzyme will convert this angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. Now, this angiotensin 2 is actually the one which will act upon various things that you will be studying in the excretory system, like in the conducting vessel and all. So you will be studying all of this in the excretory system. The thing that you must be knowing here is this angiotensin tensinogen 2 is the actual substance that will be acting on the blood vessels, and it will act as a vasoconstrictor. Okay, it is a very very strong vasoconstrictor. It will act on the blood vessels. It is much more potent blood vasoconstrictor. So it will act on blood vessels to constrict the blood vessels, and it will cause a what? Increase in blood pressure. Okay, whenever these juxtaglomerular cells sense some change in blood pressure, some decrease in blood pressure, so they help by secreting the renin, and this renin will further leads to the secretion of angiotensin 2, sorry, and will lead to the vasoconstriction. So because one more thing that here that we should keep in mind here is when the blood pressure level goes below 50 mm of Hg, then the ultrafiltration of that is happening in the kidney, the Bowman's capsule, will be affected for sure. It won't happen if it goes below 50 mm of Hg. So to maintain, to keep that ultrafiltration going on, this angiotensin 2 is very important. So it will act as a vasoconstrictor, and it will increase the total peripheral resistance. That means increase in blood pressure. so that the ultrafiltration can go on smoothly. Okay. So yes, one more thing that you should keep in mind. Here we are coming to the hormonal regulation. Angiotensin 1 is how much long? It is 10 amino acid long, and this angiotensin 2 is, it is 8 amino acid long. Okay. So this angiotensin 1 is formed by the cutting of this angiotensin which will form a 10 amino acid long angiotensin 1, which is further acted upon by ACE, that is angiotensin converting enzyme, and it will form an octapeptide or 8 amino acid long angiotensin 2 by removing this dipeptide histidine and leucine from it, and this will further help in the vasoconstriction. So let's see what they say. Angiotensin converting enzyme converts the inactive decapeptide. Decapeptide means 10 amino acid long angiotensin 1 to octapeptide angiotensin 2 by removing the dipeptide base. And ACE is found in the pulmonary circulation. As I told you, they are found in the this enzyme is found in the lungs and in the endothelium of many blood vessels. Angiotensin 2 is one of the most powerful vasoconstrictor substance known. 1 millionth, you can see the power of angiotensin 2. 1 millionth of a gram, that is 1 into 10 raised to the power 6 grams, can increase the BP by 50 mm of Hg. So you can see how much powerful this vasoconstrictor is. It acts on all the arterioles of the body to increase the total peripheral resistance, thereby increasing the blood pressure, the arterial pressure. As we all know, blood pressure is always on higher side in arteries, not in veins. Okay. So, however, the real importance of angiotensin 2 is that it normally acts on many of the arterioles at the same time to increase the total peripheral resistance. And in plasma, angiotensin 2 has a half-life of 1 to 2 minutes. So it generally stays there for 1 to 2 minutes, but it is such a powerful constrictor that you, as you can see, that 1 into 10 raised to the power 6 minus 6 grams of angiotensin 2 can increase the BP by 50 mm of Hg. So it is a very, very powerful vasoconstrictor. Okay, so this ACE has a particular is a very important role to play in case of the COVID-19 also. In the pandemic, we came across this thing that this angiotensin converting enzyme 2 is not only an enzyme but also a functional receptor on the cell surface through which this COVID and this virus could enter the host cell and is highly expressed in the heart, kidney and lungs and shed into the plasma. So this ACE2 was highly expressed in the heart, kidney and lungs, and which led to the increase in this virus entering inside the host cell. It is a key regulator of the RAS system that we call as renin angiotensin aldosterone system. What is the role of aldosterone? That we will be seeing in the when we will be studying about the excretory system. So let's keep this for that part. And we must remember that the COVID virus has this ACE2 has a very important role in the infection by the SARS-CoV-2. Okay. Okay. So generally hypertension को treat करने के लिए we have many things we have been discussing from the previous lectures, that there are many things that we generally use to treat the hypertension. One is calcium antagonists, another is beta blockers, third is nitroglycerin, as I told you earlier also, and the fourth one is ACE inhibitors, because you know angiotensin 2 is a vasoconstrictor. So whoever will inhibit this ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme, which is actually converting angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, will also act as a treatment for hypertension. Okay, so what happens is ACE inhibitors inhibits this angiotensin converting enzyme and block the conversion of angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, thereby decreasing the tension of the blood vessel and blood volume, thus lowering the blood pressure. So this is frequently prescribed, that is inhibitors like perindopril, captopril, enalapril, and whatever mentioned here, they act as an treatment for hypertension. What these drugs do, they cause the dilation of blood vessels, which results in lowering of the blood pressure. And in treating heart disease, ACE inhibitors are usually used with other medications because there are many other complications involved. Okay, captopril, as I told you, it is an ACE inhibitor which is used as a treatment for hypertension. Okay, so as I told you, four things are there for the hyper treatment: ACE inhibitors, beta blockers, nitroglycerin, and calcium antagonists. Okay, so these are those things. Okay, vasopressin. It is another important thing which you guys must remember about is this is called as the antidiuretic hormone, and it is a very powerful vasoconstrictor. Okay, antidiuretic hormone, and it is again a vasoconstrictor. So we have talked about two constrictors till now. One is, yes, one is angiotensin 1, another is this ADH, vasopressin, which is also a vasoconstrictor. So it is formed in hypothalamus and it is released by posterior pituitary directly into the blood capillaries that are supplying through these posterior pituitary. Okay, so yes,
Ma'am, why vasopressin is called arginine vasopressin?
that I'll be telling you further in the lecture. Just wait for 5 minutes. I'll be coming to that part also.
Okay.
So, normally the plasma concentration of vasopressin is very low, but after certain condition like severe hemorrhage, it can rise enough to increase the arterial pressure by 60 mm of Hg. So you can see how much powerful vasoconstrictor it is. It can increase the arterial blood pressure by 60 mm of Hg. So it is a 9 amino acid long hormone, and this is secreted by this is secreted in the posterior pituitary gland, but it is formed in hypothalamus. Okay, and it is secreted by the neurons that are running from hypothalamus to posterior pituitary, and it is also called a neurohormone. This hormone is actually secreted into the blood capillaries that are flowing through the posterior pituitary by mechanism of exocytosis. Okay, so it is secreted by exocytosis, and it is secreted in two conditions. Either it is, as they are already telling, severe hemorrhage, that means very high amount of blood loss, or there is some kind of dehydration. So in that situation also this ADH is released. Whose mic is on? Can you please mute your mic? Sharavindu, can you? Yes, thank you. Okay, as I was saying, so yes, it has generally two types of receptors, V1 receptors and V2 receptors. So these V1 receptors are generally present in the smooth muscle cells, plasma membrane of smooth muscle cells in the blood vessels, and these V2 receptors are present on the collecting tubules, on the plasma membranes of cells of collecting tubules. So these two types of receptors are present, and again they are vasoconstrictors, so they will increase the systemic vascular resistance in case of the V1 receptors, and they will increase the blood volume in case of the V2 receptors. So as the question asked, why they are called as the arginine vasopressin, they are called as the arginine vasopressin because of the presence of arginine at a particular position. If you can see that on the N terminal, it has an arginine present at the second position, while in case of pig, this arginine is replaced by lysine. So so in that condition, it is called as the lysine vasopressin, while in humans and in many other organisms, there is presence of arginine in this position, so they are called as the arginine vasopressin. This is just because of the different amino acid present. They are called by different names. Otherwise, the function is of vasoconstriction. Okay. Okay, endothelin क्या है अभी? Endothelin again a very powerful vasoconstrictor. So this is the third vasoconstrictor we are talking about. First was is there anyone in the class? This was angiotensin 1.
Two.
Sorry, angiotensin 2. Another was this that we have discussed, this ADH, vasopressin. And third is endothelin. Okay, so this is the third vasoconstrictor we are talking about, which is released from what? Damaged endothelium. This is a 21 amino acid peptide that requires only nanogram quantities to cause a powerful vasoconstriction. This is again a very powerful vasoconstrictor. So the usual stimulus for release is the damage to endothelium cells. After a severe blood vessel damage, release of local endothelin and subsequent vasoconstriction helps to prevent excessive bleeding from arteries. So generally it happens in case of wounds, when there is some kind of a severe wound or something. So in that situation, this endothelin helps to prevent this excessive blood loss by acting as a vasoconstrictor and decreasing the blood flow in that particular area. Okay. So increased endothelin release is believed to contribute to vasoconstriction when the endothelium is damaged by hypertension also. When it is damaged by hypertension, in that situation also endothelin acts as a vasoconstrictor to prevent maximum blood loss. Drugs that block endothelin receptors have been used to treat pulmonary hypertension. Okay, in case of pulmonary hypertension, endothelin blockers are generally used. Normal regulation of circulation, as we know, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic system, we all read about it when we were reading about this circulation, rhythmicity of the heart. So you guys must remember this parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. What they say, let's just go into that. Almost all the blood vessels except the capillaries are innervated by sympathetic nervous system. You all must remember and you all must already be knowing that in blood vessels there is only sympathetic nervous supply, no parasympathetic supply, only sympathetic nervous supply. While in heart, both parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous supply is there, but in blood vessels it is only sympathetic nervous supply is there. Okay, so the innervation of small arteries and arterioles allows sympathetic stimulation to increase the resistance to blood flow and thereby decrease the rate of blood flow. Okay, and sympathetic stimulation of large veins result in reduction in the volume and help to translocate the blood to heart. This is all controlled depending upon the signal that these sympathetic neurons are supplying to blood vessels. So the blood volume will increase or decrease in particular vessel depending upon the signal. Again, I am telling you, depending upon the signal. Sympathetic supply to heart stimulates the rate as well as force of contraction of heart muscle. Norepinephrine is released at its postganglionic terminals, because we know to the heart it is a postganglionic neuron which is reaching, not the preganglionic neuron. Preganglionic neuron is terminating at a certain point at a ganglion, and from there a postganglionic neuron is being generated which is reaching to the heart or to the target organ. Okay, so this postganglionic neuron in sympathetic nervous supply particularly, it is the norepinephrine which is released there and which causes the vasoconstriction by its action on the alpha adrenergic receptors in blood vessels. We all know we have alpha 1 adrenergic receptors which act as vasoconstrictor there when they are getting a signal from norepinephrine. This is all we have read earlier. Okay, so let's just go through it once. Sympathetic nervous system stimulation causes vasoconstriction of most of the blood vessels including many of those in the skin, the digestive tract, and the kidneys. This occurs as a result of activation of what? Alpha-1 adrenergic receptors by norepinephrine. This norepinephrine is coming from the adrenal medulla here. Okay, this is released and also from the postganglionic neuron that are from sympathetic nervous system. These receptors exist throughout the vasculature of the body but are inhibited and counterbalanced by beta-2 adrenergic receptors which in the skeletal muscles. In skeletal muscles we have beta-2 adrenergic receptors, while in vasculature system we have alpha-1 adrenergic receptors, and the net effect of this is a shunting of blood away from the organs not necessary to the immediate survival of the organism, and an increase in blood flow to those organs involved in intense physical activity, for an example skeletal muscles here. Okay, so you guys must remember that there are different kind of receptors involved, so different effect is seen. Function of baroreceptors, we all know these receptors generally sense the change in pressure, and this changes, these baroreceptors are present on arteries, the aorta. So immediately on standing, the arterial pressure in the head and the upper parts of the body tends to fall because of gravity, and marked reduction can cause of consciousness. So, however, the falling pressure of baroreceptor elicits an immediate reflex, resulting in a strong sympathetic discharge throughout the body. This minimizes the decrease in pressure in the head and upper body. Okay, because due to gravity, the blood will tend to move in the direction of gravity, and the head part is against the direction of the gravity. Okay. So the baroreceptors will come into action. Baroreceptors are actually what? These are the nerve endings that lie in the wall of the aorta and carotid sinus. These receptors are stimulated when stretched. They will sense the change in pressure. So rise in arterial pressure stretches the receptor and causes them to transmit a signal. Baroreceptor will transmit a signal to medulla oblongata via vagus nerve. You guys must know this thing. They will send the signal through vagus nerve to medulla oblongata, and signals are then sent through autonomous nervous system to reduce the arterial pressure to normal. When the pressure is high, they will send a signal to reduce the arterial pressure. When the pressure is low, then the signal will be sent to increase the arterial pressure. So they are the stretch receptors which will sense the change in pressure. Okay, so this is just that thing only. That baroreceptors, what will we do? They have stretch receptors, so they will act as vasoconstrictor. They will send a signal via sympathetic system to increase the blood pressure, and this carotid sinus baroreceptors. Two types of baroreceptors are there, aortic and carotid. In the carotid, the ninth glossopharyngeal nerve will take the signal from this carotid sinus, while from the aortic arc, this vagus nerve will take the signal, and the functioning will happen depending upon the situation. Either the blood pressure should be lowered down or it should be increased. Okay, so circulatory reflex initiated by baroreceptor. What happens? Let's see in a brief. After the baroreceptor signals have entered the tractus solitarius of medulla oblongata, secondary signals inhibit the vasoconstrictor center of the medulla and excite the vagal parasympathetic center. The net effects are vasodilation of the veins and arterioles throughout the peripheral circulatory system, decreased heart rate and strength of heart contraction, because अभी हमें क्या करना है? Vasodilation करना है, blood pressure को कम करना है, तो heart rate will be decreased and the strength of heart contraction will also decrease. Therefore, excitation of baroreceptor by high pressure in the artery reflexes causes the arterial pressure to decrease. Okay, these are stretch receptors, so they will sense the stretch, change in pressure. So because of both a decrease in peripheral resistance and a decrease in cardiac output will automatically decrease when the heart rate will be decreased and the strength of contraction will be decreased. Okay, so you guys must know these things, remember these things. Okay, another thing is the role of oxygen in long-term regulation. As I told you earlier in the lecture, when a person that is living in plains is going to the higher altitudes, obviously the requirement of the body for the oxygen is not met there. So what happens is body will take the route of increase in the RBC, so that more and more hemoglobin is available for the available oxygen, and the demands of the body can be met. So one example of this is increase in either the vascularity of the tissue of the animals that live at high altitudes where the atmospheric oxygen is low, or the increase in the RBC count. Okay, second example is the fetal chicks. This is an experiment that did. Fetal chicks hatched in low oxygen have up to twice as much as tissue blood vessel conductivity as in a normal situation, because obviously the oxygen was less, and to meet the requirements they had to increase the vasculature. Same happens in case of the premature human babies when they are put it into the oxygen tanks, where the extra oxygen is what they are supplied with, so they have sufficient amount of oxygen. And when the babies actually come to the normal environment, there is an actual burst of the vasculature to provide that amount of oxygen to the baby that it was getting in these oxygen tanks. So it can sometimes cause blindness of the babies. Okay. So yes, this was all about today's lecture. Now we'll be taking up the questions. So one by one you can ask me your questions, or should I start with this assignment first? So that you guys can, if anyone had any query in the assignment, then we can take that also. So first I'll be starting with this assignment. Okay. Okay everyone, this question number 1, find the correct order. So what is the structure which is marked as 1? Very easy, I guess you all will guess this correct.
Adenosine. Adenosine.
This is adenosine, right? Okay. What is this 2 thing which is marked as 2? What it is?
Ado.
Ado means what? These are adenosine receptors. Okay.
Yes.
These are adenosine receptors. Okay.
Yes.
Third thing is which is marked as third. What it is?
Vascular smooth muscle.
Yes, A2 is present in vascular smooth muscles, and A1 are present in
SA and AV nodes.
SA and AV nodes. Very right. Okay. Anyone had any confusion, any problem in this question? They can ask me now. Otherwise, I'll moving to next question. No queries? Okay. Question number 2. So find the correct order in this question. What is this thing which is marked as 1? What is this thing which is marked as 1?
Adenosine.
It is muscle relaxation. There we are talking about a vasodilator. ठीक है? This is a vasodilator, and which vasodilator you all must.
Slide is not coming. Next slide not come.
Did it come now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is one is muscle relaxation, and this is a vasoconstrictor we are talking about. Which vasoconstrictor? Let's see. Which is the thing which is marked as 2?
Endothelial cell.
Endothelial cells. Yes. And the third one is
Nitric oxide.
nitric oxide. So nitric oxide, as we all know, is a
Vasodilator.
dilator. That's why the muscle is relaxing here. Okay.
Yes.
And the one which is marked as 4th is
Guanylyl cyclase.
cyclase. Yes, it is an enzyme. Okay, find the correct order here.
Yes.
You
C.
got the correct order. What is 3? Here it hasn't been given. Let's do it by ourselves. What is 3?
Nitric oxide.
It is nitric oxide.
Ma'am, next slide is not. Yes.
Okay. So what is 3?
Three is renin.
Renin, one.
One is angiotensin 1.
Angiotensin 1, yes. And fourth is, it is
Aldosterone. Aldosterone.
aldosterone. Yes, it is aldosterone. Uh, Next question. What is this?
My slide is not coming.
Now is it visible to you guys?
Yes.
Okay, what is one?
One is
Total
the
spinal anesthesia.
total spinal anesthesia.
Okay, and two is?
Injection of norepinephrine.
Yes, injection of norepinephrine. This is actually the effect of norepinephrine on the blood pressure. Okay. What is three?
Three is the arterial pressure.
Okay, and four?
Seconds.
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 Yes, very right. Okay, now as we always do in our lecture, I have brought some questions for you guys, and I will require that you guys please don't speak the answer aloud. You just write it in your chat box, and I'll tell you if it is correct or not. Okay, I would prefer
Okay.
that way so that everyone can participate. I would be okay, everyone. So I would like that everyone will write the answer in chat box in spite of saying it aloud. Okay. So first question. First question is hemodynamics refer to A, B, C or D. What is the answer? Everyone please write in your chat box and I would request everyone to participate. It is for your own good. The answer for question number one is yes, it is B, the movement of blood and the forces involved. Okay, hemodynamics. It is the movement of blood and the forces involved. Question number two, which factor primarily determines blood flow through a vessel? Which factor it is? Question number two, answer. It is C. Yes, it is C.
C.
It is C, pressure difference across
Pressure
the vessel.
difference.
ठीक है? Okay, question number three. According to Poiseuille's law, blood flow is directly proportional to what?
C. Radius. Radius raised by the fourth power.
Sir, I would request you to please write your answers in the chat box so that everyone
Okay.
can participate.
Okay.
Yes, please do that. So yes, according to Poiseuille's law, blood flow is directly proportional to vessel's radius raised to the power fourth. Okay. Okay. So let's move towards the next question. Just give me a moment. Next question. Okay. So which of the following best describes systolic blood pressure? Which of the following best describes systolic blood pressure? A, B, C or D? It is question number 4 we are talking about. Okay, so you guys are saying C. Bhakta, you are answering for question number 4, right? Okay, so yes, the answer is Bhakta, the answer is C. Pressure during ventricular contraction. It is talking about systolic pressure. Systolic pressure क्या होता है? The maximum pressure. That is 120 mm of Hg in normal condition. So it is formed during ventricular contraction only. Okay. Okay, so next question. What effect does increased sympathetic stimulation have on blood vessels?
B.
What effect does increased sympathetic stimulation have on blood vessels? Is it A, B, C or D? Tell me. It is question number 5 we
B.
are talking about.
Ma'am, B.
Please write your answer. Don't speak out loud. Yes, Rajatha, it's B. Again, yes. It is vasoconstriction. Okay, it is vasoconstriction, uh, which is the effect of sympathetic stimulation. Next question. What type of blood flow is described by concentric layers moving at different velocities? कौन सा ब्लड फ्लो कहते हैं इसको हम? वी हैव डन इट इन प्रीवियस लेक्चर्स. Answer to the question number 6 is, I hope everyone has written. It is B again, very good. So the answer
Good.
is laminar flow. Okay, it is laminar flow. Next question. Baroreceptors are located primarily in, अभी हम लोग डिस्कस करके आए हैं ये. The baroreceptors are located primarily in the, I would love if everyone would participate in this. It will help you guys only. So the answer to this question is again yes, B. Aorta and carotid sinus. Okay. Aorta and carotid sinuses. Okay. So the next question is, what is the primary function of RAS system? What is its primary function? Everyone. Question number 8. Yes, it is C. Regulate blood pressure and fluid balance. Okay. Regulate the blood pressure and fluid balance. Question number 9. Which vessel type holds the largest blood volume? This we have done in previous lectures, everyone. It is option C. Yes, veins. Veins are actually the storehouse for blood in our body. Question number 10. An increase in blood viscosity will, what will happen if there is an increase in blood viscosity? A, B, C, or D? It's question number 10 we are talking about. Answer to this question is increased vascular resistance. Yes. So the answer to this question is increased vascular resistance. If the blood will be more viscous, there will be more vascular resistance there. Okay. What type of receptor detects changes in blood oxygen, carbon dioxide, and pH? बताइए. Question number 11. What type of receptors detects these changes? किस तरह के receptors होंगे वो? Yes, these are chemoreceptors. Okay. Next question. Autoregulation of blood flow primarily occurs in the, autoregulation of blood flow primarily occurs in the, yes, it is arterioles. ये आर्टरीज में ही बेसिकली क्या करना होता है, ब्लड प्रेशर को हमें मेंटेन रखना होता है हाई पे. वेन्स में तो वैसे भी इट इज जस्ट कलेक्टिंग द ब्लड, so it doesn't need that high pressure that an artery is that an artery requires. So autoregulation of blood flow primarily occurs in the arterioles. Okay, Anji. So let's move towards the next question. That is the question number 13. Let's see. Which substance is a potent vasodilator? We have studied about vasodilators today. So which substance is that? Which is a vasodilator? Here we, in this list we have only one vasodilator. All other three are vasoconstrictors. Okay. So yes, the answer is nitric oxide. That is B. All three are vasoconstrictors. We have studied them today only. Okay, next question is, which part of the nervous system regulates blood vessel diameter? बताइए. It is question number 14 we are talking about. So which part does that? Rajatha, yes, it is B, sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system regulates the blood vessel diameter. Okay. Next question is, which cardiovascular center controls heart rate and vessel tone? Which cardiovascular center controls heart rate and vessel tone? बताइए इसका आंसर क्वेश्चन नंबर 15. It is answer to this question is A. Yes, it is medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata, hypothalamus doesn't do this, cerebrum and cerebellum also does not get involved in this. Okay, let's move towards next question. Question number 16. Which of these increases blood pressure? Blood pressure इनमें से किस situation में increase होगा? It is question number 16 we are talking about. Either it will be decreased heart rate, increased vessel diameter, increased blood volume or decreased cardiac output. बताइए. Increases blood pressure. Question number 16. Let's see what is your answer. Option C. You both are saying option C. Okay. So answer is right. It is option C. Increased blood volume will lead to the increase in blood pressure. Okay. Okay. Question number 7. Which factor increases peripheral resistance? Which factor will increase the peripheral resistance? Question number 17. Which factor will increase the peripheral resistance? बताइए. Question number 17. Everyone, which factor? Yes, the option D is the right answer. It is vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction will increase the peripheral resistance. Okay. Next question is
ম্যাম
what?
একটা ম্যাম একটা
Yes.
blood pressure and heart rate inversely proportional blood pressure. So if heart rate is decreased, the blood pressure will be increased. Mary's law.
How will it increase? You tell me. When the heart rate is decreasing, okay, that means heart is pumping less blood.
Yes.
Okay, so if the heart is pumping less blood, that means the blood pressure is not increasing, it is decreasing, because the amount of blood, when let's take it that way, if a person is exercising and a normal resting person, what happens in a resting person? The heartbeat is around 72 beats per minute, so the blood pressure is around 80 by 120 mm of Hg, diastolic and systolic blood pressure. But when the person is exercising, then obviously the blood pressure increases. In that case, the heart rate also increases because heart is pumping more and more blood. Can you understand that? So
Yes.
it is pumping more and more blood, so the blood pressure is keep on coming into aorta. It is not getting that much chance of decrease in blood pressure as it was getting before. And heart rate will increase how? The contraction of ventricle will be more stronger than the one it was when it was resting, so blood pressure will obviously increase in both the situations. If you see, when the heart rate is increasing, the blood pressure is increasing, it is not decreasing. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, yes, we were on question number 17 and you guys have answered it correctly, that vasoconstriction. Okay, let's move towards question number 18. What regulates blood flow through capillary beds? What regulates blood flow through capillary beds? बताइए. क्या रेगुलेट करता है, हमने आज डिस्कस किया ये. Yes, it is precapillary sphincters. It is precapillary sphincters which will regulate the blood flow through capillary beds. Okay. चलिए जी, next question is what is the normal range of mean arterial pressure? बताइए क्या होनी चाहिए normal range? Question number 19. What is the answer to this question? What should be the mean arterial pressure? You guys are saying C.
I'm not talking about diastolic or systolic pressure. I'm talking about the mean arterial pressure. Normal range पूछ रहा है वो. So it should be B, 60 to 100 mm of Hg, mean arterial pressure I'm talking about. ओके, मीन आर्टीरियल प्रेशर. एक बार इसको दोबारा से इस कॉन्सेप्ट को आप लोग पढ़िएगा. इफ यू गाइस हैव एनी कंफ्यूजन we can discuss in the next class. Okay, but it should be 60 to 100 mm of Hg. Okay, next question is which organ is most sensitive to blood flow regulation? It is a very good question. We have studied it in the today's lecture, so I would love if you guys will answer it correctly. Question number 20 I'm talking about. Which organ is most sensitive to blood flow regulation? Yes, it is brain. It is brain which is most sensitive to blood flow regulation. अगर यहाँ ऑप्शन में हार्ट होता तो हम उसको भी करेक्ट करते because heart is also sensitive to blood flow regulation. Okay. Okay. Next, move towards next question. That is, which blood vessel layer controls vasoconstriction? This is a very good question. बताइए. 21. Question number 21. What is your answer? Yes, it is tunica media. Tunica media is the layer because tunica media is the layer which contains what? Smooth muscle cells. Okay, so smooth muscle cells जिसमें होंगे वही तो हमारी जो constriction और dilation है वो उसको regulate करेगी, उसी पे depend करेगा ना. So that is why this the blood vessel layer tunica media controls the vasoconstriction. Okay, let's move towards the next question. Okay, so what is the primary determinant of blood viscosity? बताइए. ब्लड विस्कोसिटी का प्राइमरी डिटर्मिनेंट क्या होगा? Again, a very basic concept question. Question number 22 we are talking about, and you guys are answering it B. Hemoglobin concentration राजा था. The answer to this question is red blood cells, which are actually flowing in the blood. Because hemoglobin तो क्या है? Hemoglobin is inside these red blood cells. So it is actually the amount of the number of red blood cells that will determine the blood viscosity. If it is very viscous, if it is lesser viscous, it will be decided by the red blood cell count. Okay. Next question is, what is the main function of arterioles in circulation? What is the main function of arterioles? If someone can tell me. Question number 23 I'm talking about. What is the main function of arterioles in circulation? Yes, it is option C, that is the regulation of blood pressure and flow. Regulation of blood pressure and flow. Because exchange of nutrients, it is done at which level? Capillaries. Okay, so capillaries are primarily responsible for this. And the blood storage happens in which blood vessel? It happens in veins again. So and return of blood to the heart, it also happens through veins. So regulation of blood pressure and flow is what something which is primarily done by arterioles. Okay. Next question is, which hormone causes vasoconstriction and increases blood pressure? कौन सा हार्मोन है इसमें? आज हमने बहुत पढ़ा है इसके बारे में. vasoconstriction, constrictors पढ़े हैं ना आज हमने. So which hormone is that? It should be 24. Option B. Yes, it is angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 is what? A vasoconstrictor. ठीक है, चलिए जी नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन देखें। वैसे एल्डोस्टेरॉन भी इसका आंसर हो सकता है, बिकॉज एल्डोस्टेरॉन इसका आंसर नहीं हो सकता, बिकॉज इट increases the uptake of certain ions that you will be studying in excretory. Angiotensin 2 should be the right answer. Okay, question number 25. Increased heart rate without a change in stroke volume will, कैसे होगी हार्ट रेट में इंक्रीज अगर स्ट्रोक वॉल्यूम को हम लोग चेंज ना करें, बताइए। Question number 25 I'm talking about 25 आंसर बी यस, इंक्रीज कार्डियक आउटपुट। और कार्डियक आउटपुट का फॉर्मूला हम सबको पता है क्या होता है, स्ट्रोक वॉल्यूम मल्टीप्लाइड बाय द हार्ट बीट्स पर मिनट। So obviously the heartbeat will increase, that will increase the cardiac output and the heart rate will increase. Okay. Which vessel has the thinnest wall? Question number 26. Which vessel has the thinnest wall? Very easy question this is. Yes, it is capillaries. Capillaries has the thinnest wall. Okay. Next question is which autonomic system decreases heart rate? Increase कौन कर रहा था? Sympathetic. तो decrease कौन करेगा? Parasympathetic. Okay. So yes, these were the questions for today. If anyone wants to ask me something, they can ask me. Otherwise, we can conclude this session. And I've left 3 questions there in the presentation. If anyone wants to solve that, they can. And if you guys find any confusion with that, they can ask me also in the next class. If anyone wants to ask me anything, they can ask. Otherwise, we can conclude the session. Okay? Yes. If you guys don't have any questions, you can leave the meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're
No more
welcome.
questions.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll meet you next week. Bye, everyone. Good night.
Good night.